So hi, I'm Professor Mat Hughes, and welcome to this podcast. And with me for this podcast is Dr. Mira Bloemen-Bekx. And the theme for this podcast is getting the early phase of the family business succession process right. And Mira is Dean of the Institute of Future Environments at the Hansa University of Applied Sciences in Groningen in the Netherlands. Mira became a Doctor of Business Economics, specializing in entrepreneurship and family business in 2019, graduating from Hasselt University, Belgium, and winning the Best Doctoral Dissertation Award of the Family Firm Institute of the USA in 2020. And prior to that, Mira had a distinguished career in marketing, working closely with family businesses and as an entrepreneur and strategic marketing consultant for SMEs and family businesses. So welcome, Mira. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. It's so interesting to get somebody with such a rich background as yourself. So, I mean, actually, that kind of bridges nicely into my first question, funny enough, because Mira, the inspiration for your research came from your husband and a moment in time when he said he had never really decided to take over the family business despite being regularly involved in the family construction business while growing up. Why did this moment impact you so much and motivated you to delve into the influence of family and parents in the careers of their children and ultimately in succession in the family business?
Well, when my husband said that to me, I was very surprised because I knew that his parents didn't push him into working for the family business. So I began to think about the effect of being born in a family business on children's career choices. So how do parents influence their children's career choices? And if not through direct speech, like you have to or you want, if I want you to, what happens? What are the informal, unconscious dynamics that are in play in families, and particularly between parents and their children? You know, succession is at the heart of family business research. And in the beginning, the family paid a great deal of attention to this phenomenon. But nowadays, it's a less research matter. But the challenges and urgencies are still out there. Business families need guidance, training, tools, and so forth. You hear the stories everywhere. So that's basically why I decided to take on the topic. And I was just curious as well.
Yeah, curiosity helps a lot. That's really cool. It's funny. It makes me, I have a little son, and it makes me think, wow, am I indirectly shaping his choices with things that we watch on TV, things that we talk about, little things like that.
But
To
it
be honest,
is.
he changes what he wants to be every few weeks.
Yeah, he's still young, but career intentions are formed really early in age or in life. Yeah.
Yeah, that is super interesting. Well, let me take you to my second question then. So, as you've said, parents are among the most important influences of the career intentions of their children. My parents also ran a building contractor's business, but my brother and I were actively warned against going into the building industry because of the physical toll it takes on the body. So in your work, you reveal and talk about social mechanisms that can shape and affect the family business succession process. So what are some of these social mechanisms?
Well, in theory, social mechanisms are the processes between important others and individuals that influence the way in which individuals think and act. So in this case, it is the interplay between parents and children that affect the career choices of the children. And what makes this interesting is the fact that these children have one career option more to explore than many other children, and that is a career in the family business. So my study shows the powerful influence of symbols and interaction, which are used in these processes. Symbols, you have to think about family and business portraits, photos, films, events, situations of every kind, a joint family vacation, the family home, the business or the businesses, the family name on the buildings, trucks or products. So these symbols have a very powerful informal effect on the identification of children with the family and the business. And the other thing is the interaction, that is the interaction between parents and children, and the use of the words, sentences, statements, labels, informal rules and sayings that are used in the family. Every family has got these sayings, and they all influence the children's behavior. And as we said before, parents are children's most important career advisors. So the messages that parents send out have a profound effect on them, like you do on your son. You must have, and not often people are aware of that. And in your example with your own history with your parents, the words that your parents used to warn you, they must have affected you and your brother in your career choices as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
so all these, so these words, this interaction, the messages between parents and their children, the symbols that are used, this all amounts to a certain level of what we call effective commitment to the family and the business. And research has shown that effective committed successors who embrace the values and goals of the family and the business and are intrinsically motivated to contribute, they often do well and are happy, which is also very important.
Yeah, absolutely, because one of the dangers is you don't want them to then leave by becoming detached and unhappy. So then this is so interesting, because I'm thinking back to my own childhood, and I realize things like I hadn't realized things like you were saying about portraits and photos that captured elements of the family business. I mean, really late in my dad's career, he was doing a lot of the work for the National Trust in the UK. And my dad by trade was a bricklayer, but he trained in a lot of the older techniques of stone laying and bricklaying, and he did work for the National Trust to restore some of their old properties. So of course, in doing that, you have to restore it to the style of the property from, in some cases, centuries. And so there was a picture. I remember there's a picture of him with the First Minister of Wales. So I'm originally Welsh, and so that took pride of place later in his career. But equally before then, there was pictures of him doing building work with me and my brother as kids in the background. I remember one. I was on a motorcycle, and there was a concrete mixer nearby,
I know.
Things like that. And I realized now, they were. It does shape the thinking. It does make me think. I was intrinsically going in that direction.
And it shapes your thinking in an unconscious way, because I have a similar experience myself. I was born as a daughter of a farmer. And my father took over the family farm. And when he married my mother, and he got when he married my mother, they were definitely they definitely had the intention to pass on the family business to their children, but they got two daughters, and the subject never rised again. So my father did not include us at all in working on the farm. So we lived on the farm. So we, work life was very much together. But no, the message was like, be independent, train yourself, do well at school, and be sure that you become independent women. So it happens, and it happens more often than you think.
So what strikes me from this conversation is that, when family businesses come around to think of succession, in some cases even decades later, what they may not realize is that all the icons, stories, imagery from decades previously, even from childhood, can actually shape succession intentions, but even succession thoughts and strategies. So for example, your parents not involving you and your sister in the conversation. It's I hope that family businesses, that's a really interesting eye-opener, because it really makes you think that all the signals that somebody may accidentally send over time can really shape thinking.
Exactly. That's true. And when I talk to business families, family business owners, that's, I think, the one point that really comes in, that really grasps them. I think, oh gosh, even if I don't want to speak about the family and the business, it does have an effect.
Yeah, in many ways, they already have been indirectly, and
Yeah,
this
exactly.
highlights why you need to be so sensitive to these early phases.
Yeah, exactly. And we concentrate, if I may add, Matt, we concentrate very often on the formal things of the succession part. And I think what my study mostly contribute is to make people more aware of these informal, the informal part and of the unconscious part, and that and if you know this, that can enlarge also your toolbox in the whole succession process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With that in mind, then maybe I'll move to my last question, which is, what would be the top 3 pieces of advice that you would give to business families and family owners and managers about getting the succession process right?
Well, that I think what we just talked about, that would be my first advice. That as a parent, be aware of your influence. So even if you decide to keep the business away from your children, this has an effect on their career choice behavior. So my advice would be to be open and transparent and explore all possibilities. So let your children find their talents and interests, but keep their relationship with the family and the business warm and positive. You have this saying of the roots and wings metaphor. So if you have if you grow roots that are too heavy, so they stick too much to the business. If you give them wings that are very, very strong, they will fly away. So you have to balance this search for interests and talents and keeping them close to the family and the business, but doing in a very balanced way so that they can make their own choices. So that would be my first and foremost advice. As a family business owner, I would suggest that you try to spend as much time with your family as you spend on your business, especially when the children are young. And when I say that, people get, oh gosh, that's impossible, but it is maybe a bit exaggerated.
Yeah.
But my advice would definitely be to invest in your family, to build a strong family, and especially when you have a large family. So when the children are young, this can be done in a very playful, informal manner. And this will surely help you further along in the succession process. And my study gives lots of examples on how you can do that. And third, start the succession process early by designing a governance structure, a formal thing, but it's good to have a governance structure in place, because it allows you to discuss and decide on matters concerning the family, the business, and ownership. And in order to make this governance structure work, you have to invest in training the communication skills and decision-making skills of all family members, and even from early on, so that you can develop a common language together. And this way, every task that needs to be done in the succession process, or dilemma or contingency that comes along the way, and they do come, the family can handle it much better. And for most, conflicts can be avoided. And that's what we want. The ultimate goal of the succession process is to keep family harmony.
Yes, yes. Actually, listening to those advice, it makes me realize something in relation to my own research. I look a lot at family social capital, and one of the things that struck me there is that, when you involve family in the business early, formally through a governance structure and also informally, they get to live in the fabric of the business, which ultimately in time will, if they are to take over, even if they are not to take over, they will have learned valuable skills, but also importantly, that if it does come to the point of succession, then they will be able to step in with good shoes, so to speak. So one of the hardest things that I feel that is being overlooked is, so when, if I had taken over my dad's business, for example, he's a very different character to me. So it would have been difficult for me to step into his shoes and then maintain the same kind of relationships with suppliers, customers, partners, and the like, without having experienced that. I couldn't just be parachuted in, for instance. So I think that final point you made, it reminded me so much of this idea of social capital, good relationships, and you can't just take them. It's something that you have to.
No. That starts out with when the children are really young, that they meet each other, because in order to build a good relationships, you actually have to meet. That's a prerequisite. And when they meet, you can, while playing, and you can think about it, and while in playing, they have to work together, they have to decide together, relationships are formed, and if you create events that are positive and that are joyful, that strengthens a very simple way the family bonds. And later on, what I experienced in my research is that many business families, especially the younger and not so big, they have no distinction between working in the business and becoming a possible owner of the business. So in this process of creating effective commitment, it is very interesting when the children are like young adults, to address them as a group of potential owners and to introduce them to the business, and not to work in the business, but in the potential capacity of being an owner, so that you can, in a very informal way, you can introduce the business, and so that they know about it. But also it gives you the opportunity to strengthen their communication and decision-making skills a bit further, by, for example, creating a next gen program. And in this program, you have these events, and let them organize the events themselves. Give them a budget. Say, okay, you have to. The program has to be informative. It has to be playful, and it has to be about teamwork. So this is what you have. This is a time frame. This is the capital you have. Decide, work on it, do it, and that will, they will grow as a group of potential owners. They will bond it, and then further on in the process, you do different things. So every phase has got its own particularly, and it's important to do the things that are really resonating with the children. So as an adult, ask them how they want to do it.
Well, Mira, thank you so much for sharing both your story, but also these fascinating pieces of advice and insights for family business owners and managers. I'm sure this will really open some minds and help people think differently about the succession process and how they think about engaging their children, early on in the business, or just in the fabric of the life of the business. So it's actually made me think a lot and look back at, now I know why my dad took me to, this building trade store, so that I could, meet people and talk to people.
Exactly.
And confuse me with all manner of maths and numbers about sizes of wood.
Exactly. But that's it. That's how you do it.
No, it's brilliant. Now, thank you so much for sharing these insights. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.